In this video, we'll take a look at the basic layout inside NX, show you how to navigate NX, and also take a look at a few basic commands to help you get the most out of your CAM trial as quickly as possible. Alright, now that you have access to your environment, I'm going to have you make a few changes to make sure that you have access to all of your CAM options. So first, let's talk about roles real quick. Roles are a predefined user interface configuration that's tailored to specific users. Roles can also be customized for each individual user, but because this is a trial, you won't need to worry about that, but I did think it was worth mentioning. Now, the first time that you start NX, it'll be set to a basic role, which has options trimmed down for less experienced users. I'm going to have you set this role to a more advanced setting to allow you access to all of the CAM options that are available. So if you look down here at the bottom, there's a hammer and a wrench. If you click that, and go ahead and click Content Industry Specific, and then select CAM Role Advanced. Now it's going to pop up and tell you that it's going to change the settings. That's fine, that's what we want to do, so click OK. Now you'll now see that you have a few more options on your toolbar than you did when you started. I think it's a good time just to really jump into the overall interface and how it's used. Up here at the top, this is your quick access toolbar. Now this is where you can quickly save files and undo actions, cut, copy, paste, as well as a drop down of the latest commands that have been used. Right below that, this is your ribbon bar. Now this is your primary means of accessing the more common NX functions, and it's organized with the use of tabs and groups. You will also find the command finder over here to the right. Now using this, you can search for commands using keywords such as curves, and it will show you every command that is related to curve functions. Directly below your ribbon bar is your top border bar. Now, this has menu selections which contain every feature and command that's available to you. So if you can't find what you're looking for in the toolbar, you can most likely find it in here, just searching through the different options that are available there. It also contains your selection and view options. Now these allow you to filter your selection types while you're working, and this will make a lot more sense in later videos when we're actually using it. To the left here is your resource bar. Now this panel will change depending on which application you're in and which tab that you have selected. Now since this trial is for CAM only, I'm going to stay in the CAM application and walk you through the areas that you'll be using most during this trial. The first tab is your assembly navigator. This will show you all of the components that are assembled into your file, and we'll have more on this in a later video where we dive into assemblies a little more in depth. Next is your constraint navigator. It will show you any constraints that are put on your assembled models. Now constraints basically fix your model to a specific location so that it's not accidentally moved in the future. The next in line is your part navigator. This keeps a history of any model creation that's been done in the file and allows you to go back and edit specific features as needed. The last one that I'm going to hit on is your operation navigator. This is where you'll spend the majority of your trial because this is where your toolpath operations will reside, as well as your tools and manufacturing geometry definitions. So at the top, you'll notice tabs for different views inside of this specific navigator. First is your program order view. Now this is where all of your toolpath operations will reside and where you'll create the main structure of all of your programs and all of your operations and so forth. Next is your machining tool view. This is where you will create your cutter library that you will use in your programming operations. Next is your geometry view. Now this is where you set your machining settings that define your home base, as well as other geometry settings that NX uses to create toolpath on the engineering model. And then finally, you have your machining method view. Now this is where you can create global settings for feed rates and other specific machine methods that you want your operations to inherit and follow. And we'll go over more of this in later videos. Now let's walk through a few of the more basic commands that I think will be useful for you to know how to use. So let's start with, how do you move an object? So the first thing that you're going to need to know is, are you moving an object that was created in this file, like a curve or a surface that you've created, or are you trying to move an object that is part of an assembled component? Because inside of NX, they're two totally different things. So if you're moving an object that you have created inside the file, you're going to use the move object command. It's located in the tools tab inside the utilities group. So you'll notice real quick that I'm not able to move this file or this object. And that's because this object is an assembled body inside of this file. So in order to move an assembled component, you're going to want to use the move component command that's located in the geometry tab in the assembly group. Now, the move component user interface will look and behave exactly like the move object command, except now you're able to select the assembled feature. And once you have that selected, you would then click the motion drop down, and that will bring up all of the different ways that you can move the object using distance, angle, point to point, rotation, cesis to cesis. In this case, I'm going to select the dynamic tab and show you how to use that. So you can click and drag any of the handles on this coordinate system, or you can click and drag the rotation, and either one of those you can also put in a specific distance or a specific angle. You can also select the center point and move from point to point. And inside this command, you can also copy your component if that's what you want to do. This has the exact same functions inside of the move object command as well. Now, the next thing that I want to take a look at is the measure command. So if you want to interrogate a model, this is the command you're going to want to use. That's located under the analysis tab inside of the measure group. Clicking that's going to bring up your dialog box, and you got a few different options to choose from. You can measure between objects, points, along vectors, or use the cesis. In this case, I'm going to select object, and I'm just going to select this face right here, and it's going to give me some information about that face. It's going to tell me the area, the parameter, the center point. Let's say I want to know the distance between that face and this face. I would select that face and add it to the list, and now it's going to tell me the distance between those two faces. You can drag your leader line out. You can also display this, save that into your model. But it's going to give you this information. And then if you want to, say, select a different face, I can deselect this by holding shift and select this face here. Now it's going to tell me that the angle between those two faces is 90 degrees, the minimum distance is 0 because they're connecting. Now let's say you want to measure along a specific vector to be a little more accurate. To make sure you're getting the right measurement, I would select vector, and I'm going to select this face here, and it's going to apply the vector normal to that face. And I'll select this top face and the bottom face here. That's going to give me the minimum distance between those two faces along that specific vector. It's going to tell me that it's 41.5 millimeters, and you can choose between minimum distance, maximum distance. All those options are available. Now let's say you want to just find out some information real quick about a model. Say you want to know the radius of a fillet. If you just highlight over that specific surface, it's going to give you that information just real quickly, to where you can just real easily and quickly interrogate a model to find out fillet radiuses and corner radiuses, things like that. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about are coordinate systems. NX has two types of coordinate systems, a working coordinate system, or WCS, and a machining coordinate system, or MCS. So the WCS is a movable coordinate system that you can use to identify geometry definitions, use them to measure with, and derive information from. You can create relative geometry, define translations. You'll use it a lot inside of NX. And then the MCS, that is your coordinate system that is basically used to define your NC program home base, so your machining coordinate system that you're going to post-process from. Now, I've noticed that the WCS is not displayed in this part file, so I want to show you how to display that so that you're able to use it. So if you click Menu, go to Format, WCS, and come down to Display. That's going to display your WCS, and you can now double click that coordinate system, and you can manipulate it with the handles by clicking and dragging. You can use the handles to set vectors. You can rotate it, move it by the point, the center point there. Now, once you get that where you want it, you can also save a reference point that you can come back to later by clicking Menu, Format, WCS, Save. That's going to save a coordinate system there. And you can now take your WCS and move it around, use it however you need to. And if you ever want to come back to that specific coordinate system that you saved, you can go to Menu, Format, WCS, and Orient. So now you'll click up here and click Inferred. Now you've got other options up here, but Inferred is the easiest to use in this instance. So I'm going to select it, then select the coordinate system. OK, and it's going to snap back to that specific location. So let's talk a little bit about your MCS. So that is your coordinate system that you see here. And you can set that by coming over to your operation navigator and clicking that, coming up to your geometry view, and you'll see your MCS icon here. If you double click that, it's going to bring up your dialog box for setting this information. And this is where you'll set your MCS for your machine home base that you're going to post from. But we'll get more into that in later videos. And this really just concludes our high-level overview of the layout and basic functions inside NX.